Thanks a lot for joining this session, especially as the lineup is packed. There's a lot of great sessions to attend. I must say you made the great choice by coming here. So I'm Jeff, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Purchasely. Who in the audience knows Purchasely already? Raise your hand if you know Purchasely. Well, a lot of work to do today. So we are a user journey optimization platform. What we do is we help marketers build their in-app funnel with a no-code tool, so you can build everything from your onboarding, your payroll, survey, KYC, right from a tool without having to ask a developer to do anything. This allows you to know better your customer, monetize better your subscriptions if you have subscriptions. And we do that in no-code for marketers and product managers. Why you chose the right session is that because today we are not going, to talk about the Blinkist paywall and how it helps or not convert better. We are not going to talk about how long paywalls can improve your conversion or how adding a video, changing a button will add X%. We are going to take a step back. We're going to look at the bigger picture of how to create an organization that actually manage to grow year by year your revenues and everything about retention, etc. And I have the chance today to have Kees from Kees. I don't speak Dutch. From TomTom, who'll be joining me for this session. So thank you very much for attending.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. So first question, maybe you want to introduce yourself in a few words?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kees. I work for TomTom. The app that we're working on is called TomTom Go Navigation. It's as the name says, navigation app for both car as well as truck. I've been with TomTom for quite a while, 12 years already. So I was just discussing with Emily, you don't hear that often anymore. But already for 12 years with TomTom and for the last 4 years more or less in app growth.
So I'm sure a lot of people have heard about TomTom, but maybe you can upgrade us a little bit on what is TomTom.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, I think most of you know TomTom still from the sat-navs, the little navigation device that you would have in the car, right? So yeah, you see one more modern one here in the corner. Basically from that time, so that was around, I think 2005 were really the heydays. TomTom has pivoted more towards being only a business-to-consumer company to a business-to-business and a business-to-consumer company. TomTom is based in Amsterdam. It has Dutch founders. The founders are still very the CEO is still one of the founders. They're still very active in the organization. Like I said, maybe the consumer brand is not as known anymore as it was in the past, but the company is still very big. You see it there, 4,000 employees in total. I think that kind of describes TomTom today.
Yeah, and what about the app?
Yeah, and the app. So the app is Go Navigation, TomTom Go Navigation, and it's an app with we have over 1 million MAUs. We have a high star rating, 4.5 star rating. It offers both car as well as truck navigation, and maybe it's a monetized app, right? That's also why we work with Purchasely, obviously. And maybe you think that's weird. How can you have a monetization app in a navigation market? I mean, the navigation app market is huge, right? Basically, every cell phone, every smartphone has a navigation app, if not multiple navigation apps on their phone, which are most of the times for free. We are playing basically within, let's call it a niche of a super large market, which still makes that niche quite big. And the people that we are serving are road warriors, right? These are people that are on the road every day. And they're just like intense users, drivers. And what we offer them is the very well-known TomTom UI, traffic information, which really stands out, and since 2 years now, also truck navigation, which is navigation specified for vehicle dimensions, weight, and the cargo that you're transporting.
Well, I'm sure that answers the first question that everybody asks. Why do we pay for something that is free out there and embedded in every phone? Yeah. So, and my next question is about the topic of that talk, which is your growth factory. And so, why did you choose? How did you choose to create a growth factory? Because the app was out there before that decision of making that growth factory. Can you explain this a little bit?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the app has been out there for quite a while. Also, before we called it Go Navigation, it was out there with a different name. But we've basically never really commercialized it, right? So the app was there and it was having a bit of an organic run rate. It was also already being monetized, but commercially we've never really put in the effort that it basically, let's say, deserved. So it was about 3 years ago that we said, all right, we did our analysis, we analyzed the market, we looked at how big is this opportunity that we have over here. And what do we need to do in order to grow this app? And we knew the product was good, right? So it had a high star rating. It already had some very loyal users. So we had something that we could build on. And that was basically, so that was about 3 years ago that we decided, okay, we need to form this growth team where we'll have CRM, user acquisition, and conversion optimization. And start, building the commercials of this app in such a way that we can continue to grow the user base, but also continue to grow the revenues from it.
And was it a go big or die decision? Like it doesn't matter anyway.
In hindsight, I can say yes or no. It doesn't matter anymore. So. No, but it was a moment, right? It was a very, I liked it because we've been looking at that market for quite a while. We've been saying, what's the investment? Do we think this can be successful? And then we went for it, and it was a nice leap that we took. And in hindsight, definitely the right one.
And I know that back at that time you were facing a lot of challenges. Can you tell us what was these challenges?
So like I said, right, so because we've never commercialized the app, there were also no tools integrated. So a lot of the vendors that you see here, we did not have those tools integrated, whether it's like Adjust or AppsFlyer or Leanplum or analytics tools. None of that was there, right? So we only had basically store data that we were getting in. And that was basically the first decision that we took. So like, we need to build a tech stack. So that also meant that a lot of the development work for a while went into integrating all sorts of tools, right? For our attribution tools, our analytics tools, and our funnel optimization tools.
And you were facing also some kind of organizational issues with people from not from mobile, with different resources allocation issues.
Yeah, right. So I think the app was basically, before we started to grow, it was basically run by development, right? Which was great because that was what had made the product so good. But we had to find a way that also the commercial team could get some autonomy on their part of the business, right? On growing it, and that's what we tried to do, or that's what we did with integrating all these tools. Which helped me and my team to actually commercialize and grow the app, and get all the data and all the tools that we needed.
Yeah. So this product was in fact a startup inside TomTom, right? Kind of.
Yeah, I like to look at it like that. That's how we've been running it, indeed. It's been a relatively small team, we've always been very focused on the revenue return, right? So on the profitability,
So on a 4K people company, let's discuss a little bit about what the structure of that growth factory is like. How many people we're talking about?
Yeah.
The tech that you use, the budget that you have.
Yeah. So the team that I'm working with is 6. So we have basically 2 on acquisition, 2 on conversion optimization, and 2 people on CRM. Then we have marketing, which is basically supporting us for creatives and also organic. And then we have the development team, which is a team of around 10. That's working on the features.
So we're talking about 16 people to run that business.
More or less, yeah.
What about the tech stacks? Because you were saying that you had nothing before. What did you bring in support of these people to be able to, besides purchasing, of course?
Yeah. So for acquisition, we brought Adjust. So that gave us the attribution tracking, and that gave us how we could measure our return on advertisement spend. For CRM, we brought Leanplum, and for conversion optimization, we brought Purchasely.
Okay.
And then for the analytics, not to forget, we brought Mixpanel, which is one of the tools that I can dive into every day with.
And as your team is also handling UA, you also have a budget, an acquisition budget.
Yeah. So we have a budget of around 2 million, that's what we spent profitably.
Okay. So, you told us about, you explained how that works and how the people, who are the people, what is in stake, your ambitions, and also your objectives and the budget that you have. But what we'd like to know more is, because it's a little bit messy, I don't know if you experience the same thing, but when you have tons of ideas, especially at events like that, you end up having a lot of ideas and things that you want to implement the next day and how you can do this and this. Do you have any growth framework you'd like to talk about on how you get these ideas, how you select which one's going to be implemented, how you measure and the successes, and how you iterate and improve in your selection over time? Maybe you can explain this a little bit.
Yeah. I think for us it has also changed a bit over time, like our approach towards the growth framework, so to say. So when we started, we basically had this robot in Slack where everybody could drop their experimentations, their growth ideas, which was really nice. It worked well. You got a lot of ideas in, and the whole team was very engaged.
How many?
I mean,
hundreds, thousands,
well,
dozens.
Not to that extent, but a lot. I mean,
is that like the ID box in the office?
Right, exactly. It's basically a digital ID box that we had.
Okay.
And it was really nice, right? So it worked well. We got some really good ideas from it, and especially for that phase, it was a perfect solution because we didn't have all the tools integrated yet, so we did not have all the data yet. So.
You collected all these ideas, but how do you what's the next step?
Right. So from there we basically had our discussions, our grow discussions, where we were ranking the ideas on the basis of impact, right? Which one did we think would have the biggest impact? How much work did we think it would take us to do? And based on that ranking, we decided which ideas had priority over others.
And do you do that based on the personas that are using the app?
How do you mean on the basis of the
truck driver, regular car driver, truck driver?
Yeah, so we took that into account as well, and especially, I mean, if you talk about truck drivers, then also the price of a subscription for a truck driver is higher, so often you will also find that business case more quickly works out.
And so once the ID is selected, it goes to development, or
exactly, it goes into experimentation. So we'll pick it up, we work on it, and we will track carefully, right? How is it performing?
Okay, and and so what are the KPIs that you measure? I mean, is it always the same KPI or?
No, it depends, right? So it depends on where in the funnel we're testing. So was it, for instance, with CRM, then often the KPI would be like first drive, or the stickiness, like how often a user is returning to our app. If it was with conversion optimization through the onboarding funnel, then it could be either, going from download to paywall viewed, or it could go from paywall viewed to trial start. But there, in the end, right, especially on top of the funnel for us, the main KPI is always, of course, which one brings in more revenue.
Sure. Especially as it's a hard paywall app, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, what I'm looking at, what types we're going deeper to the kind of optimization. So what are the types of, well, you invade a little bit with what you say, but what kind of optimization are you running? Well, we usually have pricing, paywalls, etc. You said also onboarding, but I'm curious to know, well, how many tests you run, in which areas do you run them?
Yeah, so this has also changed quite a bit, right? So when we started, we knew that the first things that we wanted to fix was around pricing. So basically, we had the feeling that the app was undervalued.
How much was it at that time?
It was $12.99 a year at the
Okay.
time. But then we had to prove that, right? So is that really the case? And indeed, if we change the price, does that work better for us? So that was basically when we the first test that we started doing without any platform. So there we were really doing incrementality analysis. We were doing before-after analysis. We were comparing between regions just to get an understanding of, okay, you know, what are these different price points doing with our performance. And we were actually able, without any tools, to get quite a good feeling for what should be the ideal price point, and adjust on the basis of that. Then after that, we looked at the app dynamics. So basically the onboarding of the app at the beginning was different than it is now. So we used to have basically a trial that would start automatically. So you would get a 30-day trial.
The famous reverse trial.
Right, indeed, it's called a reverse trial, right? So 30 days reverse trial, and after 30 days, someone would get a paywall. And that was also one of the things that we changed very early on, because of course you've lost the majority of your volume 30 days after download. So we brought that paywall forward, higher up in the funnel, getting more eyeballs to the paywall. And by that, okay, losing a bit more volume going into trial, which is then a auto renewal trial. But okay, even with that loss of volume, it still works out a lot better than having that paywall all the way after 30 days.
Yeah, and so all these different kind of tests, how do you deploy them? Because you operate, we didn't say that, but you operate on a lot of different geographics and demographics. So how do you deploy and choose to deploy each test?
Yeah. Mostly we do it by region, by OS, and by car type. So those are kind of the different options that we have and that we can choose between on the testing that we do.
Okay. And what is the gold star KPI, North Star KPI?
For us, it's revenue in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were saying that in the intro, and it's also in the title of the presentation. I think we talked about these 300% growth, and what I'd like now is to talk a little bit about the outcomes of this team and framework that you managed to build. Can you tell us a little bit about the different outcomes?
Yeah. So
in terms of download or funnel growth.
Yeah. So I mean, the changes that we made early on in the pricing that already did an uptake of 20% plus. Then in downloads we went up by 30%. Well, right now, if I look at like where we stand right now against 3 years ago, then the funnel has improved by 12 points. So yeah, it's been a good journey of growth. Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things that when we prepared this workshop, you told me about was the one segment had a specific impact on your revenue growth. Because, of course, first of all, having this is really interesting because when you look at this, you have a 30% download increase that ends up in a 300% revenue increase. Well, I think this is something that is really undervalued because we usually think we had more acquisition and it would generate more revenues, but optimizing at every steps also helps converting a 30% into a 300%. So it's not only the UA that needs to be improved or the end of the funnel with the conversion, but hold the journey in between. And I think that's one thing that you succeeded doing, especially doing like 90 tests in about 1 year on your onboarding funnel. And I think that's outstanding, having a 30% converting it through a 300%. But one category really stand out of which is the trucks.
Yeah,
Maybe
which is the trucks.
Maybe you can talk a little bit how you worked that category.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting category for us because it's paid navigation, right? Like we said at the beginning, basically we're playing with it in a niche of a very large market, and truck is again like a niche within our market. And for truck, there's basically no good solution, right? They can use Google Maps, they can use Apple Maps, they can use Waze, but it's not optimized for the vehicle that they're driving. And the subscription that we're giving them is optimized for truck driving. So they can enter their vehicle dimensions, they can enter the cargo, they can enter the weight, and based on that they get the routing, which is very important for the truck drivers, right? You can imagine that it's super annoying if you're on a road and you can't continue because of the truck that you're driving. So that worked really well for us, and I think that's also interesting, right? Because in the end, like all the optimization that we do, they're super important, and that they've brought us here. But you see that listening to your users, because this was feedback that was coming from our user base, is what's making like a real big difference, and then you can start optimizing again from there.
If we just pause there, we now know better what was TomTom Go navigation app before you started at Growth Factory. App developed by developers, not growing or reaching out to enough people, let's say. You managed to create a team, get a budget, to make a process in place, to have, spectacular results, let's say. I'm sure that in all that process, you faced a lot of challenges. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges has been getting the data right. So you have all these tools, and they're giving us all those nice and great insights. But then if you start comparing between the tools, you very quickly get lost, and you're like, what are we actually looking at, and what is actually the performance that we're seeing here? And that has been a struggle, because we had like I said, right? We were using app figures, we're using Mixpanel, we're using Purchasely, and just trying to understand, okay, what are the exact definitions of the metrics that we're looking at over here? How do they compare from tool to tool? Because you can imagine, like CRM is optimizing everything based on the data from Leanplum, whereas then the growth team is optimizing against all the data that they're getting from Purchasely. But yeah, you do have to make sure that they go both in the same way.
And so this is especially true as all your organization came from e-commerce, where the business is really not like renewing subscription, and you were educating on e-commerce.
Yeah. So yeah, I think one thing that really helped us is basically the growth model that we've built. So this gives us our run rate of the business, and it gives us our forecast of the business. We have mapped the full funnel, and we basically forecasted that for 2 years out. And we go through forecasting cycles every month. We look at, okay, how accurate was our forecast, where in the funnel were we off, and how come that we're off. And that gives us our absolute benchmark, right? So of course we do our tests, and we have our control groups and our variants. But this gives you that extra confirmation of okay, is this test that we're running, is it really outperforming the current business? And I think that has helped us in these challenges that we've had.
Yeah, and you chose to purchase most of these technology bricks instead of developing them in-house. It was also a struggle, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like all the partners that we work with, it's all external. I think it works really well for us. I think it doesn't make sense to reinvent the wheel if you've got all these great companies here that have already invented and optimized those tools. So, yeah.
Was maybe not in the company culture in the start, especially in a team that was only composed by developers who were doers.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah. That was also at some points those were discussions indeed. Like, why do we need them? Why do we need these tools? Is it really necessary? We can also do this ourselves because they're developers that like to build themselves, right? So, but I think now that we are 3 years out, everybody definitely understands the value.
Yeah, I'm sure that's one of the lessons that you learned from all that process. Is there any other lessons you'd like to share with us?
I think
if you need some help.
what was one that I put?
Everything's scripted. I mean, failing on learning, like the fact that you were a testing organization already. There are some things that you were already that helps, like having the ability to test and fail without having to explain to those stakeholders. Yeah, it's normal to fail. And
true. Yeah, and that's actually something that was already in our culture. Indeed, like we already had an experimental culture. So yeah, testing, winning and failing, that was all fine, I think. Although I have to say that all the way in the beginning, also that for the developers was sometimes difficult, right? Which you can imagine, because they have been running the business for quite some time. Then we come in and we break things, and they're like, "What did you guys do?" Right? Then after that, we fix them again, and the growth happens, and everything is fine. But yeah.
And what about the UA? Because same, you came from e-commerce, and it's a brand new channel, new tools, etc. What was your learnings on UA?
So on UA, I think the first learning was right. Also here, getting the data right, getting the adjust implementation right. Once we had that right, we started scaling. And at the beginning, we were a little bit cautious. And I think we're actually a bit too cautious, right? Because at some point you just need to take a leap and try things out and spend a bit of money and get the data in and then optimize from there. So I think like we started scaling in 2021, which was actually a really good year, I think, for everyone in acquisition. And now it has become tougher, but okay, we're super close to the data, so we can manage the budget in a profitable way. Yeah, and
there is one story that I loved because we were following all that path, because we were one of the first vendor that joined this adventure, and we were really happy for that, and we helped you on a lot of different steps. But this is a concern for a lot of our customers. When you have a free app that turns into freemium, you are always scared to make people pay. And because you don't want a bad grades, you have that 5-star grades. Of course, you're delivering great product for free to everybody, but at some point you're gonna make them pay. And it can be also another step where you're seeing a lot of your free customers using that feature, and you want to reduce the free usage and turn it into your subscription, turn part of it into a subscription to value your subscription. It's part of the game at the end. And every app founder, startup founder that I saw going through this is very scared about doing these kind of things. And I know that you've been testing a lot of things, and most of the time it was okay, but you also had a bad a press backfire or something like that.
Yeah, with press, yes. Now this was when we were testing pricing, and we took it a bit too far, and that went viral, so to say, on blogs, right? So I was saying TomTom raised the prices. So that was a bit of a stretch that we did there, but yeah, I think that's also part of it, and then you have to manage it, and in the end we got the data, so that's what we told everyone. We have the data, so now we fixed it.
And how it affected your grades or the rating, your ratings, or?
It was okay. It was okay, actually.
Okay,
it was okay. I mean, we had to do a statement, right? So and of course you feel it for a bit, but literally I would say a couple of days.
Couple of days. Okay,
so,
that's fine.
Yeah. So we could manage. Yeah.
Okay, so that's part of the learnings.
But I think that was also because it was testing before we had all these great tools, right? And right now when we test with Purchasely, it is much more controlled, and you have a lot less risk of running into these kind of issues.
Okay, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's it.
Yeah. So that was about where you are today. So you managed to make a lot of growth, but we could all guess that at some point it will like stop or slow down, etc. How do you make sure that these results through this process will continue delivering value and like sustainable growth over time?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's important is this growth model that I already mentioned. So you need to be able to look ahead, right? You need to have your estimates of what the future is going to bring. But that's really important, right? So that tells me, okay, what's next year going to be like? What's the year after going to be like? And it's a subscription business. You have your retention data, you have your acquisition data, so it is highly forecastable. So I think that's number one. That's important. Then the moment you see it slowing down, you need to understand, okay, why is that, right? Is it because of your acquisition? Is it because of your retention? And what are the users telling you? So be close to the reviews, be close to customer care, the feedback that you get from your users, and then build towards the next thing, I would say.
And the next thing is something revolutionary, or
we're working on it at the moment. So I can't tell you much about it, but the next thing is coming. Yes.
Excellent. I think I'd like to pause right now, and this is the end of the overall framework. And now we have a little time left for different deep dive into different questions, but. Before we do into different aspects, but before we do that, I'd like to ask if any one of you has a specific question before we get into some topics. And at the end, the last slides we'll have a QR code for downloading everything. So if you skipped some, you'll have the chance to download the deck. Maybe you can. Do you have anything to say about this price elasticity?
Yeah, so this is like a super high level summary of the first test, the price testing that we did, right? So we looked at the download to paid ratio basically, and the price point, and based on, you see, right, the moment you start increasing the price point, your download to paid ratio comes down. And the question is, okay, where do we need to be on that scale? What is the most profitable one? And we basically had, back then we had two price points which were equally profitable, but with one, the highest one, you would lose more volume. So that's bigger risk, right? So because you don't want to lose too much of volume. And the middle one was, we lost a little bit of volume, and it brought us the same kind of profitability as the highest price point.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And do you manage to do any upsell on these customers? Do you try to do any upsells?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we can only upsell basically towards truck. So that, yes, we did.
On duration,
obviously.
maybe? On duration?
Duration, we have a very healthy mix, actually. So we have like 90% of our users are going into the yearly plan. So that's from the beginning already 90. Optimized. Yeah. Family plan, we do upsell to family plan. But yeah, that's kind of the upsells that we make.
Okay, excellent. I have a lot of different things I can say. Of course, we started this. You started the Growth Factory, saying that you were needing for autonomy to test things and move the needle pretty fast. You were stressed under the development time for each and everything, and you were really conscious about the resource allocation. And also, you didn't have any mobile experience advertising. How did Purchasely help in that way?
Yeah, in a great way. So like I said, so we did not have autonomy over our onboarding flow. We did not have autonomy over our paywall, not over the subscriptions that we were selling on that paywall. None of that, right? It was all with development. And the problem is that if you then want to optimize, you have to go through the development cycles. So we'd had to discuss it with the development team, then they had to code, then it had to go to QA, then it had to go to the release cycles, and it was all way too complex and too lengthy in order to actually improve our conversions, improve our subscription mix, or what have you. And with Purchasely, we've been able to basically, own that whole onboarding experience, paywall experience, and the subscriptions that we're selling. And it made a huge difference for us because now you have basically the commercials of the app are also with the commercial team. So yeah, I think that was a huge leap forward that we took.
And it was also for us because as we worked with you on the onboarding, and let me just show you maybe some examples of different onboardings that have been run by TomTom. As we worked with you on this, we also greatly improved the product to be able to launch a new feature a couple of weeks back that allows you to create any kind of screen, including surveying, including KYC, including feature presentation, that compose the onboarding or reassuring elements that allows to create a full onboarding flow in-app natively, and that can make a huge change, which usually the onboarding now they can take like 20, 30, 40, 50 screens that you have to develop on your own, which is almost the number of screens, by the way, that are in the other app, which happens after the onboarding. And being able to do this can have a huge effect on all the things like acquisition, knowing where the acquisition come from, what are the expectations on retention, and of course on conversion. Maybe we can just discuss this example of yours.
Yeah. No, sure. Yeah. So I think that the top one is one where we wanted. So the issue that we had, what we found was that users were not spending enough time in our onboarding flow. So we were like, if the user is not spending time in the onboarding flow, what's the purpose, right? So we need to find a way how we can make sure that the user spends more time in
what for?
In the onboarding flow.
Why spending time in the onboarding
Well,
flow?
because it's a window to showcase your app, right? Before somebody is actually subscribed. So that's why you want the user to spend time over there. So that's why you want to have an increased time spent. And then one of the ideas that we had in order to make sure that a user would spend more time in the app was bringing in some interaction, right? Which is what you see in the top flow, where you can choose yes or no on a couple of the features that we offer. And that worked, right? So what you saw is that indeed the time spent in the onboarding flow increases without basically losing volume from downloads to paywall viewed. So that was already a win. That's basically on the top flow.
And is there any? I think there's another experiment. I swore in the beginning of that presentation we wouldn't be speaking about the Blinkist paywall, but sorry, I have a Blinkist paywall. No offense. And I think there's another option that you experience here with different toggles.
Yeah. So same concept, but then indeed with a toggle. So yeah, you can basically toggle on, toggle off, and then you continue to the.
And do you have an increase in retention that you measured, and in conversion also?
No, so conversion is basically flat, but the conversion is higher from basically onboarding flow start to paywall viewed. When you're talking about like a 95% conversion or so, it's super high. So yeah. But the time spent increases, so that was what we were after. Yeah.
And the long-term retention too.
Yeah.
Okay. Blinkist paywall, because I lie all the time. So, well, can you tell us maybe that's other kind of experiments? So we have a little more time to discuss. So maybe you want to.
Yeah, that's the paywall on the left is the one that we've had for quite a while actually, which is indeed like the Blinkist model, which is why we sell so many 12-month subscriptions. Basically, the other subscriptions, the 1 month was hidden under the see all plan buttons, which falls off the screen here. So that worked really well for us, but now recently we've also started testing other paywalls. So you see one on the right. Well, the advantage of the one on the right over the one on the left is that now we can also bring the family plan more into the picture. So that is, I think the one that we have here is the truck paywall on the right. So if you see the same one for car, then you see the 12-month and the 12-month family plan. So when we did that, we saw our family plan subscriptions basically double. So that was already a huge win over the Blinkist paywall.
Excellent. Maybe we'll try some TomTom paywall in the future, you'll have your TomTom paywall. Yeah, I liked also that example. Is that the example, because I did the screenshot a few days ago, is that example where you offer a free trial in one case or a direct discount, but you cannot compose both of them, right? That's the one, right?
That's this one indeed.
Yeah.
So that's truck. So that's another one that we did indeed, where we're offering either like a free trial on the full price, or we're offering a discount on the a discount, but then without a free trial, right? So the user can basically choose either pay directly with 30% discount or go through the free trial and pay the full price.
It's kind of a red pill, blue pill
Right.
situation.
Right.
I think we are out of time right now, and I want to thank you for sharing so openly these different elements and how you build that team. I think we can do the same kind of session in 2 or 3 years and see where you are 6 years after. Thanks you very much. Thank you very much for attending. You can download the slides of the presentation here. And if you have any question, we are free to take them on the purchases booth number 13. It's the big ballroom that you have, big room where the lunch was. And will you be joining us a little bit after the session?
Yeah, definitely.
To take
definitely. Let's do that.
And we'll be around all day and evening. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.
Thank you.